Ladies and gentlemen, business owners, my fellow citizens, and those that are traveling on Labor Day. They say statistically that there are over 17 million travelers this Labor Day weekend. When we do the mathematics, it comes to 56,666 flights. The opportunity for failure is greatly enhanced with that many flights. I am not going to say what can happen. I don't know when. I don't know where. But I definitely know the how and the why it will happen. In 2001, when 9/11 happened, Boeing had over 500 plus aircraft to be built. What happened was, when 9/11 happened, they dropped it to 400 aircraft. The management had it in their mind that now they can lay off 20 to 30,000 employees out of Boeing because, of course, that would be cost-cutting initiatives and assistance with the aircraft. In April of 2002, Boeing put out a memo without their logo on it. I have a picture of it and everything, so if they want to change it, they can't do it. I've got the actual snapshot plus the actual web link for it from their supplier portal. And this was for special processes like prime, paint, heat treat, welding, non-destructive testing, etc. So they have an organization called Performance Resource or Institute, PRI, and they were the ones that were handed the keys to the kingdom. Boeing then said, hand in your PRI slip, hand in your parts, customers, and we don't have to come visit you for 22 years. In July of the same year, of 2002, they came out with a PQIT-002-001, July 1st, 2002, that stated that if you are an AS9100 certified organization, certified company, as long as you are ANSI ANAB accredited, send in your certificate, send in your parts, and we don't have to come to your facility for 22 years. In 2009, Boeing was made an FAA regulator, that means they are equivalent to the FAA, to self-certify their own aircraft, which means this. Their design and development and new aircraft electronic systems did not have to be told to the FAA because they were made the FAA. They are the FAA. This is what the DOJ does not want you, the public, out of those 56,000 plus planes that are going to be buzzing around us. You don't know where that part was manufactured on that plane. You don't know if the heat treatment was properly done. Just because it's a piece of paper doesn't mean maybe they put it in a stove, an oven, that only gets to like 300 degrees rather than a possible 600 to 800 degrees to heat treat the part properly, to anneal it, to make sure that the flexure and modulus elasticity and everything is properly done. Well, hey, Boeing got caught fudging documentation on their metals that went into their aircraft in 2017 when they were FAA regulators. Also, most recently, between 2007 and 2018, Boeing again fudging documentation in their composite facility in Pennsylvania for their Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey. And in composites, as I'm a composite guy, time, temperature, and pressure are the most empirical parts of that part to be manufactured to give it solidity and structural integrity, is to make sure that time, temperature, and pressure are properly done. So you now bring it up here, and the DOJ most recently said that Boeing lied to the FAA concerning the MCAS system. Well, I'm telling you again, 2009, they were made an FAA agency of the FAA. You can't make this up. For any of you who are flying, just think about this. I'm not a guy who's got 1 year in quality. You got a guy here who's got 40 plus years. That's number one. Number two is this. Most recently, the DOJ fined Boeing so that the poor people from Ethiopian Air and Indonesian Air, their family members, couldn't really go after Boeing because the DOJ sits on ANSI ANAB, the accreditation body that Boeing forces down their suppliers and subcontractors' throats. That's number one. They're not just And also the DOJ is not just a member of ANSI-ANAP, they're also a customer. Just like the Department of Homeland Security subcommittee who was doing investigation work that when I was there in April 17th of 2024, and I stood up and I had the balls enough to say, Mr. Salapar is correct, but Boeing gave up supplier auditing to a piece of paper for 22 years. You like that? And let me give you some history. On their supplier portal, Boeing, where suppliers will go to see what are the requirements, they have a third-party register must be ANSI, ANAB, or international equivalent, which could be China, Iran, Pakistan, etc., because they are equivalent in accreditation to ANSI, ANAB. The IAF, which is the International Accreditation Form, was formulated by ANSI and also the affiliate ANAB. ANSI took over complete control over the American National Crediting Board in 2018. They are underwriters for the IAF. Any company on the IAF or their sister organization, the International Laboratory Accreditation Cooperation, any of them are equivalent in accreditation to ANSI-ANAB. And if there's failures in the system of those other accreditation bodies, like Accredia, like UKAS, etc., then ANSI-ANAB, because they're equivalent, are legally bound to those other bodies because they are underwriters, which means they take all systematic and also product failure. You cannot, and I say this, you cannot make this up. So what they did too is they took down the web page on the ANSI-ANAB website because I've been exposing it. I've got the actual snapshot from this past March, which isn't that far long back there, and it shows you that Boeing sits on the board of ANSI-ANAB that can grant, suspend, and withdraw certification. How do you like them apples? This video today is at Labor Day warning by QA expert Daryl Guberman. What goes up must come down, and the DOJ and DHS will make you frown. But the FAA is also culpable because they too sit on Boeing's accreditation body. You have, and you have the FDA, you have the DOJ, DHS, and the Department of Commerce all sitting on ANSI-ANAB's board as members. They're also customers of the accreditation body. What is going on here? I'm asking. With the Department of Commerce, they have NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, who, by the way, runs the MEP program, Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is 50 strong in every state, 50 states, right? They get both state and federal monies, whereby 64.85% of those monies taken in pay their management, personnel, bonuses, etc., and the rest of it is left to, the bitter dregs are left to manufacturers. That's why America's manufacturing has not been up to the world speed. That's why they suck, okay? Many of them, it's not their fault. It is, and they don't suck. They're pretty good for what little dregs they get out from the MEPs, NIST, okay? The NIST MEP, and by the way, NIST sits on ANSI-ANAB's board, Department of Commerce. There's a guy, Gordon Gillerman, $120,000 he makes, a royalty payment or various, plus his federal salary. I was told by a judge magistrate from one of the federal agencies that say that's illegal to have a federal employee on a private concern like ANSI-ANAB. On top of it, the Department of Homeland Security that I stood up, and Richard Blumenthal, a guy from Connecticut who's the chairman of that, sitting there, he probably doesn't even know. And I tried to inform his aides that he gave me when I stood up. Oh, it's very bad. They cannot omit or deny. They cannot. Anyway, on the Department of Homeland Security, there was a guy, Phil Matheson, who's a representative of the DHS sitting on ANSI-ANAB's board, and he gets $262,000 a year tax-free. You can't make this up. So this video today is about QA expert Daryl Guberman exposes the 56,000 plus flights for this Labor Day weekend. May God have mercy on your soul. I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I don't know when, I don't know where, but I definitely know the how and the why. I thank you. 203-556-1493 or Daryl, TQRS, @yahoo.com.